Hello, all of you. So the law paper is completed, and now gear up for the next paper, that is DT and IDT. I'll say the same thing for after the DT and IDT and costing exam also, that okay, the paper is over. We need not actually discuss the MCQs, question answer, done and dusted, right? That's what we say. So let us gear up for the DT and IDT. Super solid preparation we have done together. One shot revision videos are there, which you can watch at 1.25 speed to revise the whole gist of the topic in just say 20 minutes for set off clubbing. Superb. Business head might go on for 40 minutes, but add less, all your concepts will be clear. Marathon is also there. MTP 1 and 2 is challenging, but I have solved it in the best of the way. Don't miss out the capital gain questions of MTP 1 and 2 for January 25 exam. One or two case studies, they were little tricky, and some instructions for solving the case study using your 15 minutes of reading time correctly. All that is already shared in other video just before the exam. That's the title of the video. In 7 to 10 minutes I have shared, and the gist I'm saying that you can definitely have a rough work in your answer sheet for MCQs, because in case scenarios also, it's like a question. So the first MCQ answer will be your sale consideration, second will be your indexed cost where advance money forfeited is to be deducted, and then indexation to be done, like that. So when you write it in the rough work, you do it faster rather than doing everything in the calculator, right? Same for GST. GST also, I feel composition is very, very important. Repeatedly asked questions. Supply and GST part is very nice in the MTP 1 and 2, which I have solved for January also, for September also. There's a playlist you can quickly check, because when you solve 2 or 3 MTPs and past exam papers for the GST partner, you get a grip. One common mistake I have corrected the papers for those who have solved MTP now is that say in GST question number 1 is fixed paper pattern and all. Please check MTP's first 10 minutes. You will have a solid mindset. Okay, this is the pattern. This is how I have to choose. If I include all that, this is unnecessarily going to become lengthy, which I don't want. Everything is given to you rather than me being with you for 6 hours, 8 hours. Now it's your way to study it fully, better, confidently in your way. I will take it in my way, but you know yourself कि okay, set off I can revise in 10-15 minutes, salary बहुत अच्छे से अभी किया है तो बाद में करेंगे. So that's your choice, right? Okay. Okay, now what I was telling you for the GST part, yes, very important is output minus input is the GST payable. Now, so many times say output is 10, input is 12. So there is no GST payable, right? Output minus input. But still, if you are liable to pay the GST under Section 9 on RCM basis, you have to pay it in tax. I hope you are getting. Output minus input is the balance GST payable in cash. So maybe if output is 10, input is 12, GST payable is nil. But in input purchases which I have made from unregistered person and I am registered, advocate giving service or the cab wala giving service to the company has to pay the tax on RCM basis in cash. They can't adjust it in the input tax credit. This you remember while solving the problem. Value of supply, very important, is subsidy and all. It's like again I'll go into the revision mode. Okay, here we are together for the coming 5, 10, 15, 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes I'll take. Very quickly, I'll try to revise the old regime. Okay, old regime, that is the normal tax rate, and the default regime, that is the new tax rate. Nothing given in the exam. You have to follow default tax regime under section 115 BAC, right? And in default tax regime, the tax rates are different and certain deductions and exemptions are not allowed. But in the question, if they clearly give that the SSE has opted out of default tax regime, then you have to calculate the old or the normal regime, wherein all deductions and all are allowed. Old and normal regime is one, default regime is one. So take care of this to make it easier, because this is last moment. I can't say I'm giving you the notes and you write it. I've already given a comparative table PDF in all the WhatsApp and Telegram group. Just before starting the video, I have added it again. I have already given it 15 days back. Again, I have added it. So I'm going to do the revision from that. Those who are having the latest DT compiler, this is a part given in your compiler. So here we go now very quickly to, yeah, only in case of question number 1, if they ask you to calculate tax as per normal regime, that is opting out of default tax regime and default, and which one is beneficial, then you have to do the comparative, right? Okay. So this is very well applicable for January 25 exam, because May 25 again 1 or 2 limits are changing. Standard deduction and family pension, which I don't want to discuss now. Right now, section 115 BAC. If you are opting out for default tax regime, who can follow? Individuals, HF. I'm teaching from the point of view of MCQs, case scenario, and there are question and answers also solved. So section 115 BAC, individual, HUF, AOP, BOI have an option to pay the tax in respect of their total income according to the default tax regime or normal. Normal is old regime and default tax regime. Default tax regime versus normal likha hai, you can write old regime also. So who can opt for? Individual, HF, AOP, BOI. Acha, here also special incomes are taxable at special rate. Long-term capital gain and all 10%, 20%, and lottery and casual income 30%. But otherwise, basic exemption is 3 lakh. 3 lakh to 6 lakh 5%, 6 lakh to 9 lakh 10%, 9 lakh to 12 lakh 15%, 12 to 15 20%, and above 15 lakh it's 30%. Great. Here tax rates are low. Normally what is the tax rate? 0 to 2.5 lakh basic exemption. 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh 5%. 5 lakh to 10 lakh 10%. And above 10 lakhs it's 30%. Here above 15 lakhs it's 30%. Is this clear to all of you? So 3 to 6 lakh 5%, 6 to 9 lakh 10%, 9 to 12 15%, and so on. Okay. If you are already comparing the tax between the old regime, that's the normal regime, and default tax regime, then you need not pay the tax under AMT. Yeah. Individuals and HUs who are excising 115 BC are not liable to pay tax under alternative minimum tax. You remember? 18.5% you have to pay. By adding back any royalty or 3580 deductions you have got, right? AMT credit set off is also not allowed. In normal tax regime, if your total income is up to or less than 5 lakhs, you get a rebate in the tax under section 87A 12,500, and after the rebate on balance of tax, only health and education is added. Here, if your income is up to 7 lakhs in the default tax regime, you can say pay nil tax. So up to 7 lakhs, how much will be the tax? 3 lakh nil. 3 lakh to 6 lakhs. On the next 3 lakh, 5%. That is 15,000. And 6 to 7 lakhs. Up to 7 lakhs, if your total income is in the default tax regime, you don't have to pay tax. So 6 to 7 lakhs, what's the tax? 10%. 6 to 7 lakhs, the tax is 10%, right? and 10% of 1 lakhs comes to 10,000. So what's the rebate in the default tax regime? 25,000. What's the rebate in the normal tax regime? 12,500. Right? I have given a comparative also on the next page. I hope my speed is fine. You can respond. Your time, my time, all is very, very precious. So I'm not going to take more time. Right? Chalo. Special incomes are taxed at special rates. If you are filing your return in default tax regime, 37% tax is not there. Highest surcharge rate. Surcharge is paid on tax. And tax plus surcharge, milake, you have to pay the health and education cess. So surcharge is 10%, 15%, 25%. 37% is not applicable. This is the crucial point for solving the case scenarios, and silly mistakes sometimes happen. So take care of this. Same rates are applicable for non-resident senior citizen. Oh, I'm a super senior citizen, 5 lakh. No, I'm a non-resident, 3 lakh. No, same. 3 lakh is the basic exemptions for non-resident senior citizen super. No additional basic exemption which you have here in the normal tax regime, right? In the default tax regime, it's the same for all. New tax regime or the default tax regime will be default tax regime unless SSA opts for normal. Nothing given. You have to follow default tax regime practically, but in exam, surely they'll give you clearly. Standard deduction 50,000 from the gross salary, and family pension, which is taxable in other source, 15,000 or one third, was allowed only in old regime. Now it is allowed in both the regime. So if they give salary received per month or gross salary, you can give standard deduction in default tax regime also, normal also. Same way, family pension received by family members is taxable in other source. 15,000 or one third deduction wahan bhi milega, yahan bhi milega, right? Now, this one is very nice, but I have briefed it in this table, so I directly want to take the comparative. This is my own made table. It's going to be very helpful. Come to salary head. In salary leave travel concession, you remember in a calendar 4 years, anytime you can go 2 times to your hometown with your family and train and flight economy class tickets. It's allowed here. In default, it's not allowed. Disallowed or not allowed means leave travel concession, whatever is received is directly taxable. HRA, rent paid minus 10%, 40% is allowed, but if you go for default, not allowed. Children education allowance, which is exempt up to 100, hostel exempt, this is allowed here, not allowed here. So if you are filing a return in default tax regime, even if children are getting 50 per month education allowance, it's going to be straight taxable. Okay. Daily allowances which are paid to MPs and MLAs, they are exempt under 1017 in normal tax regime. In default tax regime, they are taxable. Okay. Minor, super duper important. Kahin na kahin this will come. Minor, for every minor child's income clubbed in the hands of the parent gets a deduction or exemption up to 1,500 per child, no upper limit of 2 children. 3 children's income clubbed in the hands of the parent, say father will get 1,500 per child exemption. Okay. But no such exemption is given if you go in default tax regime. Next now, retirement benefits, gratuity leave up to 20 lakhs and 5 lakhs and all, that is allowed in both the cases. It's allowed in both the cases. This is a revision. Don't think कि मैम ये कैसे याद रहेगा, 2-3 बार अभी आप करोगे बिल्कुल याद रहेगा श्योरली. 2-3 बार मतलब just this table, 5 5 5 10 minutes 12 minutes enough. Transport allowance for handicap was exempt here and here also, both. Okay. Only these allowances, HRA and all is allowed here, disallowed here. But transport allowance is allowed. Ma'am, then why did you give? There are few things allowed but known, so I have given you. Allowance for official purpose. You know, company is giving you uniform allowance and it's exempt for you. Huh? In both the cases, daily allowance exempt. Standard deduction, both places. PT and entertainment allowance, profession tax paid by employee deduct. Paid by employer, add and deduct. Entertainment allowance is deducted in government employees. ये सब normal regime allowed, here not allowed. Section 10 AA SEZ exemption. Total turnover, total profit, export turnover, export. So many problems we have solved. It's allowed here. It's not allowed in the default. So if you're filing your return in default tax regime, section 10 AA, everything will become taxable directly in business income. Coming to house property, whatever I'm saying, star mark. If you have a printout of these 4 pages, mark it. Just 1 second. Just thank you for waiting. Huh. Okay. House property, very important is in self-occupied property, if you have taken loan, upper limit allowed is 30,000 for repairs and 2 lakh for purchase of house, right? So you can take self-occupied property mein loss up to 2 lakhs, and that loss you can set off with other heads also. Self-occupied loss up to 2 lakhs and loss set off with other heads also up to 2 lakhs. Where in the normal regime. If you go in default tax regime, self-occupied property, you cannot show a loss. Ma'am, but we have paid interest, it will lapse. Self-occupied property, you cannot show a loss. Second thing is, house property loss cannot be set off with other heads at all in the default tax regime. In normal tax regime, that's the old regime, you have house property loss 3 lakh. 2 lakh you can set off, 1 lakh carry forward. Here though, it's not allowed. In default tax regime, house property loss cannot be allowed to be set off with others. Okay. Normal depreciation is allowed at both places. Additional depreciation is allowed if you come out of default tax regime. In default tax regime, additional depreciation is not allowed. Scientific research, in-house, revenue, capital expenditure, all is allowed. Both places, excluding cost of land, earlier years and all. But when you donate to national laboratories, IIT and all, it's allowed if you come out of default tax regime. In default tax regime, it's not allowed. Capital gain, there's no change. Income from other sources, family pension, this is an amendment, so they can ask you. Family pension is allowed 15,000 or 1/3. Yeah, it's allowed in both the cases. Standard deduction is also allowed in both the cases. Deductions, chapter 6A deductions, ATC to ATU, all are allowed here. Here only 3 deductions are allowed in default tax regime, PPF, LIC, Mediclaim, nothing. Only 3 deductions are allowed. ATCCD2, contribution to NPS by employer. ATCCH2, employment लिखा है नहीं, employers contribution to army corpus fund, employers contribution to army corpus fund. And ATJJAA, 30% of the additional wages you have paid new employment. Rebate, here it is up to 5 lakhs 12,500, here it is up to 7 lakhs 25,000. ठीक है? Okay. Now, did you observe one thing, like you are paying to national laboratory outside and all, this is not allowed. Additional depreciation. What expenditure is not allowed in default tax regime related to that losses also you cannot carry forward. Are you getting? Right? So you cannot carry forward any losses in the default tax regime related to expense which are not allowed. Additional depreciation is not allowed. So related to additional depreciation, if there is loss, you cannot carry forward in the default tax regime. Is my speed fine? Are you all following? Is this helpful to all of you? Yeah. And here is the question solved, comparatives. Okay, business income and all. Here you have given the deductions. Here nothing is given. 80C, PPF, LIC, 80 TTA, interest deduction up to 10,000. Senior citizen है, this is 80 TTA. ये याद रखो कल के एग्जाम के लिए. 80 TTB up to 50,000. Here saving account interest. Here saving and FD both interest. And the way you calculate tax also, here 3 lakh, they're different. So this is already solved problem. You can just check it. Both the problems are very nice. If the time doesn't permit, to be frank, leave the third question. थोड़ा बहुत detail में है salary के साथ. But the first, second, third, you always solve it. Just एक बार just watch it. Okay. Same thing what I have revised for all of you is given here. Following deductions are not allowed. Leave, travel, HRA, daily allowance, tax holiday, entertainment, PT not allowed. Just now I told you. Except following means all this is allowed. Transport allowance for handicap, standard deduction, all this is allowed. Interest on loan in respect of self-occupied property not allowed in default. They're allowed. Even losses cannot be set off with other heads. Additional depreciation not allowed. Donation outside for scientific research not allowed. Deductions not allowed except these three. Yes? Right. Okay. Very important aspect they can ask in MCQ is if individual and HF is having business and profession, then income. Okay. Then once they decide to go for default tax regime, continue. If they opt out, they cannot again opt in. Who? Individuals and HUs. Those who are having business income. And those who are not having the business income, no problem. Such individuals or HF can choose whether to excise the option in each previous year or what. Okay. So such individuals or HFs can choose whether to excise option. Every year they can decide they want to go for default tax regime or not. Same for deduction of TDS. The employee should inform to employer that please calculate my tax and TDS with default tax regime or normal, right? And if they say, okay, go for it, they can change it later while filing the return, but throughout the year, tax will be deducted. Now, see, I told you here up to 5 lakhs in the old regime, rebate is there 12,000. In the new, 7 lakh rebate is there 25,000. Sometimes the income just crosses 7 lakhs and we lose the rebate. Like if your income is 7 lakh 15,000, yeah, then tax is coming up to 3 lakh nil, 3 lakh to 6 lakh 5%, 6 lakh to 750. Tax is coming 26,500 because your income is 7 lakh 15,000. If it would have been 7 lakh, if your income would have been 7 lakh, then the tax would be nil. Okay. So just because the income increased by 15,000, see, if income was 7 lakhs, tax nil. Income is 7 lakh 15,000, tax is 26,500. Just income increased by 15,000 and the tax increased by 26,500. So definitely this minus this is what is the rebate. And finally, whatever extra income you get, 7 lakh 15,000, that you can pay in tax. I hope you are getting this exactly same concept like marginal tax relief. And then all comparative, this is own comparative made with lot of analysis and exactly all the points are covered where students are facing doubt. So make sure you check it thoroughly. Any doubts you have, 9290065156. Don't call on that number. So it's office number. All my staff will not be available all the time, including me also. But definitely, if you click a picture and post, I'll surely clear your doubt by voice note. And if you're there in challengers group or telegram, you can post your doubts there. And a very great news I'm sharing, Concept Classes is having its own website. Launch is going to be there in the last week of the January, where more activities, more free resources will be available for you to prepare for upcoming exams, and many more skill-based courses and material will be available, right? So I'm waiting as you are waiting for your exams to get over, and then after a quality good break, we'll work on many other aspects which are necessary to bring out the best in you. So subscribe and hit the notification button. Like this, there will be a live session for costing also. Costing also, those who have taken in mail, it is freely available. If you fill the Google form, you can get the compiler copy or buy the copy. It's just the printing and courier cost, I can say, 549, right? So that's available costing Sarthi compiler. But if you're writing in January, don't go for the hard copy. Just go for the soft copy and theory questions, top 50 questions, MCQs, and MTP 1 and 2. Everything is solved for you, right? So wishing very all the best to you. DT Marathon 1 and 2 is there. In 2 Marathon, I have discussed and revised everything, how to recollect and important sections of TDS, that is 194.9, right? N, 194N, withdrawal of your own money and all. Okay. Other than that, one shot revision videos are also there, and chapter wise exams. So many of you have already written paper corrections you have got. So wishing you very, very all the best, right? Don't think that I'm not remembering anything what you are teaching. I'm not able to. It happens. You are in the last subjects exam, just you have written before us. You will come out of it, relax, whatever best you can study, go to sleep, wake up early, or study in the night and wake up late. Your wish. You know yourself best. God bless you all.